Okay. A bit of a change of pace, okay? This is all animal work. And the reason I've been working on cannabinoids for many years, and we want to do some animal work on cannabis and its constituents because it's out there being used by people, it's out there being trialled, and there's basically no scientific justification that's any good at all to justify the use of whole cannabis and most of the constituents that are out there from preclinical animal work. Okay? So what can animal models tell us? So what might be the best way to go with cannabis and cannabinoids? This is a busy slide and it's just a bunch of guff from a recent meta-analysis of cannabis for a whole bunch of states, including chronic pain, cancer and things like that. And I know nothing about odds ratios, but odds ratios for pain relief with whatever cannabis things are being trialled out there is 1.41, which I understand is not great, and it's beaten by the odds ratios for adverse events. So maybe it does something, and if it does, there's probably a bunch of side effects to go with it. So as I said, clinical studies, trials have used whole cannabis, or they've used THC, which is the main psychoactive ingredient of cannabis, or they've used these things called nabiximols, which is a mixture of THC and the major non-psychoactive ingredient of the cannabis plant, cannabidiol. So that's CBD. You're going to see those two acronyms a lot from now. When you look at the animal work that's been done on cannabinoids, they've mostly examined synthetic cannabinoids. And these, some of them were chemicals that are designed to act like cannabinoids, and some they didn't know what they did. In fact, the classic one is back in the 80s, there was one made by Merck, and it was sent out to a bunch of labs, and nobody could find that it did anything at all until someone went like that and was comatose for 24 hours. Cannabinoid. So when we look at chronic pain in animals, we do a whole bunch of different models. We model neuropathic pain by doing injury to peripheral nerves or spinal injury. Diabetic models will induce this pain, and then chemotherapeutics like paclitaxel. And of these studies, only a handful of, well, 2 handfuls have looked at cannabis or its constituents. So we thought, before people go crazy about trialling and testing all this stuff, let's figure out what their analgesic efficacy is in these pain states. And, you know, the studies out there are reasonable for that. And then look at their side effect profiles. And unfortunately, when you look at the animal work, very few people look at the side effects with the analgesic effects. And given what the clinical studies show, you've got to look at the side effects because, you know, you're just going to get side effects and very little pain relief. So we want to look at, we don't want to look at whole cannabis because we don't know what's in it, and if you look at all the different plant varieties and extraction methods, you'll get all sorts of different ratios and combinations of the extracts. So we want to start looking at very specific extracts from cannabis. And there's over 100 cannabinoids in the plant cannabis sativa. And the main one, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, I'll just call it THC from now on. That's the main psychoactive ingredient. And then down they go. The next one is cannabidiol CBD, which I just mentioned. It's not psychoactive. Okay? So I'm going to tell you some data that we've done. Sorry, this isn't a cancer pain model, but I'm going to talk about a nerve injury-induced model of neuropathic pain. And then there's one other group over in the UK that's doing something similar to us with cancer pain and chemotherapeutic drugs like paclitaxel. And what they're seeing appears to mirror what we're finding with our neuropathic pain model, but they haven't looked at the side effects of these drugs yet. So we get mice, we cause partial damage to the sciatic nerve, and when you do that, you get this classic signs of neuropathic pain. They have spontaneous pain, they have allodynia, and we can quantify that pain. They also, and then because we're looking at cannabinoids, we look at the classic side effects that cannabinoids produce. So motor coordination, and basically we just get them to run on this thing here, and they have little cylinders that speed up. And the better coordination they have, the longer they'll stay on it, so we can measure motor impairment. We also look at sedation with a thing called a dark open field. And then another classic cannabinoid side effect is catalepsy, which is a trance-like state of just being like that, okay? So what we want to determine is the pain-relieving efficacy of these drugs, so how well they relieve the pain, and then the potency of the drugs to do that, so how much of a dose we need to do that. And then when we get that dose of the pain relief, we get the dose of the side effects, and we compare the two to see if we've got a window where we can get doses where we get analgesia to side effects. So if you just look at these little pictures here, this is just increasing dose, increasing drug effect, okay, and which is which? The black one is pain relief and the red one is side effects. If they just sit on top of each other, as soon as you get pain relief, you get side effects. It would be good if we could get pain relief at doses below where we get side effects, and it would be bad if we got side effects before we got pain relief. Okay, so we're not getting much pain relief here, we're getting a bunch of side effects. So that's basically what we're doing. We're looking at the size of that effect, how much pain relief or how much of a side effect we get, and then the dose separation between the two. And surprisingly, people hadn't done this for cannabinoids, okay? In any sort of chronic pain model, any sort of cancer pain model. So let's start with delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. This is the psychoactive ingredient. And to make it simple, these graphs just show increasing the dose that we give to the animal, and this is an increasing relief of analgesia. And we measure two things, mechanical and cold allodynia. So this is sensitivity to mechanical things and cool things that aren't normally painful. And these animals display that. We give them the drug, we increase the dose, we get an increase in that pain relief. Great, you know, we got a drug, it works, so why isn't it great in people? So if we just overlay those, you can see that the two different sorts of pain, we get relief of that pain, and their potency is about the same, they occur at similar doses, and slightly different maximal effects. So that's all good and well. But let's look at side effects now. So here's what we have, a thing called a dark open field. It's red, it's dark. And we put the mouse in the middle of this square chamber, and we just look how much it moves around. And mice, when you put them somewhere new, they do mousy things, they explore, they'll go around, okay? And so one of these has got an injection of just a vehicle, just the solution we dissolve THC in, and the other one has got that with THC, okay? So that mouse has gone in, and off he goes. He's having a look around the place. He'll go over there. And this guy here, and if we go to 41 seconds, so he's moved over there, 1.5 minutes. I think you get the idea. I better do this because it crashes sometime. Okay, so they're getting side effects. So if we look at the different side effects, again we get dose-dependent behaviour. We increase the dose of THC, they become more impaired in that motor test. The second one, catalepsy, they become cataleptic. And when we do that, we just put them on these bars and they're stretched out, and it's a natural position for them, but it doesn't hurt. But a mouse that's stoned, it'll just stay there basically. And then sedation, that one's just inverted. That was that last video. It's how much they move around, and you can see that animal got a dose that was about there, so they don't move much at all. So they get side effects, great. But, you know, what's the difference between the pain relief and the side effects? So THC, the blue is the dose response curves for analgesia, the red is the dose response curves for side effects, and you can see some of the side effects. There's a bit of a dose separation, but that one there isn't. Okay, so it's obviously not going to be great, because once you start getting pain relief, you start getting side effects. So what about other phytocannabinoids? We've gone on to cannabidiol. This is the non-psychoactive one. And again here, this is the pain relief that we get. As you increase the dose, you get pain relief. But if you sort of remember what the THC ones look like, it doesn't go as high as the THC did for the mechanical and the cold pain. Overlay those. They're kind of similar. One's got a less effect than the other. And now, if we look at the side effects, there's not much going on. There's no motor incoordination, no catalepsy, and no sedation. So when we overlay all of those, you can see that pain relief, we can get a reasonable amount of pain relief with no side effects. So we figure if you go for high doses there, you're not getting these cannabinoid side effects. Great. So a few people have been looking at this thing called trade name Sativex, which is THC plus cannabidiol, and it's undergone some trials, and I don't know what they're really finding out, but I don't know if it's that promising, frankly. And we've looked at it in animals, and it's complicated. And here, so this is again looking at the pain relief, and the black line with the black dots, that's THC plus cannabidiol given together, increasing doses. And you can see it's got a complicated dose-response behaviour. You get analgesia, it flattens out, then you get more analgesia. And we call that biphasic dose-dependent behaviour. And you get that for the mechanical and the cold pain. And just for comparison, ignore all the others, just look at the green one. That's what the theoretical predicted effect is of the two drugs. So if we give the two drugs separately, we put them together, we can predict what it should look like. So we've got this quite amazing increase in potency, like it's 100 times more potent than is predicted as an additive effect. So there's synergism happening, but the drawback is that the pain relief is only partial, even less so for the cold pain. So when we put the two drugs together, we're getting some sort of synergistic pain relief. And there's the side effects, and when you stick the two together, the blue is the pain relief again, and the red is the side effects. So you can see you've got this range in here, a window of where you're getting good pain, well, some pain relief and no side effects. So the interesting thing is when you look at the clinical trials of Sativex, they use in humans what are fairly high doses. They seem to be pushing them near where they're getting side effects. And that's what our data would suggest, that once you get up to high doses, you're getting pain relief, you're getting side effects, but it's virtually indistinguishable from THC alone. I don't think there's any difference between giving THC alone or Sativex if you're using at the doses they're using in clinical trials. So the only opportunity for the combination is lower doses, but you're going to have less of an analgesic effect. And so that's just putting it all together. THC, you can get quite good pain relief, but there's no separation to the side effects, the red ones. Cannabidiol, you get less pain relief, you get about a 50% reduction. We get a good therapeutic window there. When you go to this combination of THC and CBD, the maximal effect is just like THC, but if you look at that bit up there, that's pretty indistinguishable to THC. The useful bit's down here in low dose ranges. So, given where people might go with trials, THC is probably a no-go, given the data that's out there already. Cannabidiol is certainly worth trialling at high doses, because it does have reasonable pain relieving effects. And that's what appears to be happening with the cancer pain model and the chemotherapeutic drug models. They're getting reasonable pain relief with cannabidiol. And also THC or cannabidiol in combination with current first-line medications might also be useful, because we've got some evidence to show that they act synergistically with some of those drugs that are out there. And thanks to the people who did this study, Vanessa, Sherelle, Nick and Bryony, and support from PMRI Limited, an anonymous benefactor, and prior financial support from those two places that I don't like anymore. Okay, thanks.
We'll be interested to know that's exactly what we're trying to do if we can only get some money. We want to do just that. We just want to do just that. Any quick questions for Chris? A lot of work going on down here, of course, on cannabis.
I just had a question. I've seen in one center that depending upon whether the issue is pain or whether it's pain and problem sleeping, they give the patient varying doses of TCH versus CBD. So they alter the doses depending upon if it's daytime, they will give it more CBD, less TCH, when it's nighttime, higher TCH and less CBD. So is there something?
Sorry, which way around do they do it again?
In the US, center in US.
So in the daytime they give higher what?
Sorry.
In the daytime they give higher...
Higher dose of CBD ratio,
Yep.
and less of TCH, whereas at night a higher CBD and less TCH. So
THC will put you to sleep.
yeah,
Yeah.
THC, higher TCH,
Yeah.
and less CBD at night, just so that they can sleep better at night.
Okay.
So just wondering what's your comment on trying this? I know so far we have to apply like it's a specific, you have to apply with the medical advisory committee to get access, case by case basis, but I just wanted to find out if you have any data on this kind of varied combination of THC versus CBD with the mice.
Yeah, we have, the combination stuff we've done is just one-to-one.
One-to-one.
We haven't done
Very
different doses, so I don't know what sort of dose ratios they're doing. But basically, all they're doing is knocking out people at night with THC.
Whether you have any in the lab.
They just show pretty clearly that you can knock out a mouse.
So they're actually using it in the patients.
Yeah. I'm allowed to use mice, not people. They're not far off. You'd be surprised.
Anything else? Yes.
I was just wondering, most of the experience that I've sort of with my data is sort of things like Sativex and PRN sort of model. Are you looking at using it sort of regular dosing?
Using it at what?
Using regular dosing rather than PRN dosing?
Yeah, look, the first stage we do is just acute subcutaneous injections, and we'll gradually move over to different routes of administration and then doing chronic administration to see if it holds out, and that's probably quite important. And we're doing that with other drugs, because we're doing THC and we're starting cannabidiol with drugs like gabapentin, which will need to be on for a while to start doing anything.
In the humans, we're hoping to do a dose escalation of starting off with 1 tablet, 2 tablets, 3 tablets. So dose escalating individual patient trial with the various combinations of THC and CBD. But the barriers that are put up to cannabinoid research are extraordinary, we're finding.
Well, it's a lot easier for us.
Yes.
We've just got to get a licence to import. That's it, full stop.
Yeah.
And we don't need a lot.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Don't take your phone.